Hello again, and welcome to another edition of CMP TV. I'm Fergal McAlinden, the news editor for CMP Magazine, and on today's panel, sponsored by Fundever, we'll be discussing the commercial mortgage space, the main trends that have happened so far this year, and what's coming down the line in the future. I'm very pleased to welcome today's guests. Adam Watson is the CEO of Fundever. Christelle Mwamba is a mortgage agent at Mortgage Scout, and Matthew Nicol is a partner and mortgage agent at Citadel Mortgages. Adam, I'd like to start with you. What have been the main trends that you've seen so far in the commercial sphere in 2021?
There's a lot of very obvious things happening in our country and across the US right now as more and more people become vaccinated and more people have a lot more freedom. And this certainly is affecting the commercial real estate landscape as well. When the pandemic first hit and government regulations were introduced, there was a mass exodus from office space, a mass exodus from shopping malls as more things went online, as more people went into basement offices. And we're slowly getting out of that. The first almost half of 2021, I believe we've seen a steady increase in suburbanization, which is essentially people moving outside of major urban areas. People are realizing, I think, more and more that they don't necessarily need to be in the downtown core anymore. And that's having a big impact on the multifamily space as those areas outside of those major centers are growing considerably. The obvious things that are happening as well in office spaces, offices are quieter for the time being. Personally think that's going to change over time. And the obvious effects on retail as well. Retail is facing increasingly more challenges as people shop online. So I think all in all, there's a lot of stuff happening in the commercial real estate space. But I think we're poised for change. I think we're adaptable. And I think the commercial real estate space is very healthy.
Christelle, would you be able to give me your view on some of the main trends this year?
Well, I recently actually had the chance to speak to one of my key partners at CBRE, and he actually said something very interesting. He said that you cannot paint commercial real estate with one brush. So we're seeing a lot right now, two asset classes in real estate in the commercial real estate market that are really booming actually due to the pandemic. The first one is industrial real estate, which has been like really high demand. Usually before they were actually funded by pension fund, but we're seeing a lot of private investors actually investing in it and coming through it. And the land value has increased compared to even 2020, where the land value was at 885 and now it's at 978. So you're seeing that. And the other aspect also is the multi-residential. We're seeing a lot of origination coming from that too. And mixed use, where you see condos and then a lot of retail stores at the bottom just to generate the traffic. So that I think has been a big, huge impact on that. And also the vacancy rates has dropped from 3.4% to 2% in the multi-residential.
Thanks, Christelle. Matthew, what are some of the main trends you've noticed so far this year?
Yeah, no, we've seen a big change in this year from last year, right? Like Adam mentioned, we saw the exodus of everybody leaving the office space, right? We've seen lenders in our channel. I started with a lender 14 years ago in this business, and we weren't allowed to work from home. And we've seen that change, and we've seen efficiencies go up by 300% in that side of the market, even just in our own industry, right? What we've seen personally as a brokerage and with our commercial business is last year we saw people exiting out. Now we see, okay, you know what, even leasing and rental in the GTA and other large markets, we've now seen the bottom, right? When we're talking with our key stakeholders and, my partners over at JLL and that sort of thing, and like CBRE, like Christelle was talking about, right? They're identifying, hey, look, this is what we are seeing, right? The market is kind of, you're down to the bottom, you're getting those great deals, but now, just like on the residential side, we're starting to see those situations where if you have a great property, you're getting top dollar for it, and people are going in droves trying to get that for when they can bring their people back into an office environment, right? I think obviously with the changes, with the vaccinations, with everything going along, we're looking at, okay, by August, people should be secondary vaccinated in the Canadian market. In the US, they're already there in most states and it's already going, right? So when you look at that, as a whole, at the end of the day, you're going to see a lot of people moving back to that office environment. You're going to see a lot of half in the office, half working from home, because a lot of people like that, and it cuts down the costs for a lot of different organizations and companies. Let's face it, overhead is key, right? Cash flow is key to a business. So let's look at those factors, right? But we have seen an uptick in people looking for it. We do see the fact that the ones that want to go back into their retail space, or their, especially in the offices and such, when you look at, you know, consumers and the fears of Canadians and the Americans in the US, when you're looking at the pandemic as a whole, there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to just come back in the fold and say, hey, okay, I'm vaccinated, let's go back to work and let me sit right beside, you know, 30 other people. There's going to be that transition period, and I think we're going through that right now. And to be honest, if somebody's looking to buy, you know, commercial or lease, I think this is now the right time. Right now, we've also seen a trend in a lot of the non-owner occupied properties, you know, where it's a restaurant or this business, that business. They've been there renting for years. They might even have a suite upstairs in the mixed use property. Now they've actually transitioned to, okay, you know what, I want to buy this thing going forward. And a lot of the ownership, you know, and the investors are looking at this as a great opportunity to get rid of some of their portfolio, but that might not be as great performing down the road.
And Adam, I want to put this question to you. As the country emerges from the pandemic, what are some of the main factors that are going to affect the commercial sphere?
I think if there's been one common theme in the commercial real estate space, like everything else in the past year, it's been uncertainty. There's been, as Matthew and Christelle both spoke about, there's been a massive uptick in suburbanization and office vacancies in particular due to working remotely. You know, office and retail space, again, you know, as we've talked about, face numerous challenges. But we're continuing to see, I think, a lot of increased demand on the multifamily assets. And I want to kind of hone in on that, I think, because a big part of the demand on that multifamily asset space will be, again, the whole concept of suburbanization and moving outside of the you know, major city areas, if you will. You know, all levels of government have made it very clear that we're facing a housing crisis, a shortage of supply, and an increase in demand. And that means that, you know, affordable housing options for a lot of people are required, and they're needed quickly. You know, what does this mean for commercial real estate? We're seeing it a lot in Fundever. It's a vertical that's growing very, very fast. We have a lot of developers seeking financing right now on building these sorts of communities outside of major urban areas. More building is happening across the country. More money is going to be flowing into the commercial real estate space. More borrowing is going to be happening. And the federal government recently announced billions of dollars to be injected into additional housing. So multifamily itself is very, very strong. On the industrial front, I don't think there's any you know, I think that that's also a very fast growing vertical. There's a massive shortage of space. You know, let's face it, businesses outside of traditional retail and perhaps hospitality and restaurants and tourism, for the time being at least, the businesses outside of those spheres are thriving. Some at levels that are stronger than they were pre-COVID. And it makes sense if you think about it. A lot of people are still buying things. A lot of people still have money. Some people have more money, more disposable income than they did even pre-COVID. And people still obviously want stuff. And that stuff needs to be manufactured somewhere. That stuff needs to be warehoused and processed somewhere. So industrial space is still in very high demand. There's a massive shortage of it. Anybody that's going to succeed in this sphere, they need to continue to adapt and continue to be flexible as they have been since the beginning of the pandemic. We've talked about office space and what's happening there with everybody working remotely. So I think there's a lot of very interesting shifts that are happening in that space, but I think it's exciting for all of us here that are on the panel that are very involved in this on a daily basis. I think it's very exciting for us because there's a lot of stuff happening, and there's going to continue to be a lot of stuff happening.
Thanks, Adam. Christelle, what do you think some of the main factors are going to be affecting the commercial sphere moving forward?
The main factors are very industrial spaces and also manufacturing plants. Like look at Amazon, Google, they all are moving into they're moving into Canada now. And we're still, all of us, there's a high demand on Amazon because everybody's buying eBay. So those are really they're really booming right now, and they're going to continue to grow. I don't think that they're going to stop after the pandemic. I think it's just going to be kind of balanced between that and retail space.
Thanks, Christelle. Matthew, what are some of your thoughts on the post-pandemic future for the commercial sphere?
I agree with Adam and Christelle, right, and what they're talking about the the manufacturing side of things, the warehouse side of things, right. There is a shortage of that, obviously, because when you look at what builders are building, even the commercial space, there has been more demand in the past for those retail settings, those multi-residential and that sort of thing being built, right, from that kind of aspect. And you don't see a lot of new commercial parks coming out. And when you do, you see them in different regions. I'm up in York Regions, just north of Toronto. There's several of them, and they're sitting there and sitting there and sitting there, and the lots haven't been bought and that sort of thing, right? You do see the Amazons and the Googles moving in and buying these spaces and whatnot. I think, the factors, a lot of them are going to be on the office space going back. It's going to be on the small businesses as well, right? We have seen a large shift in the retail spaces, the mom and pop stores, the salons, the strip malls, where we've taken owners that have come to us, in the past 12 to 18 months saying, hey, I'm losing people at a high rate. I need to refinance. I want to keep myself afloat. I want to do this, that, and the other. We've had a lot of success with taking those properties and partnering them with development companies we know and advisors and such, and repurposing those and getting zoning changed and so on and so forth with municipalities, so they can turn that into, okay, now I can sell it to a builder for 4 times the value and get townhouses built there, or a condo, or that sort of thing. And I think that is going to be key moving forward when you look at the shortages in Canada, right, for space. Where I am in the GTA, housing prices on the residential side, it's just people are priced out of the market. Right. I'm 38 now. A lot of the people that I grew up with that aren't throughout their careers, and gotten to the point and didn't buy years ago, like myself and my wife did, are now sitting there going like, I'm on the sidelines, I'm renting, and I can't really get in. It's hard for me to get in the market. That there is going to be a transfer of wealth when you look at the older generations, like my parents and such. When you look at what they have, a lot of them are equity rich, cash poor at the end of the day, right? They're still working longer. Canadians are working longer. They have equity in their homes. They can't necessarily pull it all out, that sort of thing. So you are seeing that shift, right? And with the multi-residential side, it is becoming more popular, because what we've talked about, and I'm sure the other panelists here can agree, over the past 2 or 3 years, a lot of the commercial talk has been about multi-residential becoming this larger player than it ever has been, because of the housing market and because of people being stuck in renting in that situation longer and needing more affordable housing and rentals out there for people to actually jump onto, right? What have we seen? We've seen bidding wars on the rental and the housing and the purchase side of the residential side of the world, right? Now we're starting to see the great properties in the commercial side starting to pick up in that space as well, where it's like 4 or 5 people going, no, I want it. I've got this money. I'll put this, I'll put that, right? So I think the demand obviously is always one of the biggest factors, and looking at what's available in space to be repurposed for other avenues that need that and have that demand is going to be something that's going to be key rolling into the rest of 2021 and into 2022, I believe, as well.
And Adam, just on the subject of the future of office and retail spaces, what are your thoughts there?
I think it's going to be really interesting to see what our new normal is when we finally start moving out of this normal that we've all become accustomed to since the pandemic started. As much as I believe that the work from home more model is here to stay, as we've talked about on this panel, I don't believe that it's the end all be all, and I don't believe it's going to be the ultimate outcome. I think we're very social beings, us humans. I think the office is a very social place. I know for my team and myself at Fundever, working from home has its pros. I think my dry cleaning bill has never been lower. So certainly there's some pros to it, the flexibility that's there. The suit jacket and tie and pajama combination is something I never thought would be a thing. So maybe that's in the pro column. I'm not entirely sure. But I think that I think a lot of us, and certainly myself included, are really looking forward to getting back to an office environment. I think we take a lot of the office dynamics for granted, just being able to pop over and say hello to somebody or pass somebody in the hall, or, go for a quick walk on a break and get a coffee together and converse. These are all things that I think we're missing with the work from home stuff. So I think as we pull out of the whole pandemic situation, we're going to return eventually to the office dynamics. I think there's definitely going to be some changes there, some things that we've seen, a lot more office sharing, a lot more work share sort of opportunities and things like that. But overall, I think that's the direction we're going to go. And on the retail side, I think it's going to be the same sort of thing. So, the retailers that have been successful through the pandemic are the ones that have been able to transition their business to online. But again, humans are very social, and going to the mall is an outing and is an experience for a lot of people. It's not just about buying something. It's about going and wandering around and going into stores and touching things and window shopping and eating something in the food court. So, obviously retail is struggling right now because these are the sorts of things that we're not able to do under these restrictions. But we're going to return to that. I'm very confident that we're going to return to that model. And we're probably, retail is probably at some point in time, it's going to come back with a vengeance, because everybody that's been at home, unable to do these sorts of things, I think we're all just waiting for the day that we can. So, again, I think commercial real estate is very strong. And I think that the companies that have been able to weather this storm are going to come out incredibly strong in the end.
Christelle, do you think that we will see a return to the way things were before in terms of office spaces and retail?
I agree with Adam. And also most of these, for example, downtown Toronto, most of these office spaces have 5-year leases. I think the key thing will be technology and the employers kind of adjusting the office space. I think that people are going to want to go back to work in the office, but the square footage might be less, because as you can see through the pandemic, the businesses that have been able to be successful are those that have been able to transition to like Zoom and Teams and all that stuff. So I think that will still stay. It's going to take about maybe 2 to 3 years for people to see like a big human traffic again, especially on Bay Street. But I do agree with Adam that we will be coming back, retail will be coming back. And to be honest, like there's in total savings right now, I was just reading on the Global Mail, Canadians have saved $100 billion right now. So they want to spend that money, right? So they're going to want to use it, whether it's Amazon or going to the mall, they want to spend that. And also rates are low right now. It's really cheap right now. So that's also a very key component.
Matthew, what are your thoughts on the future for retail and office spaces?
It's a loaded question at the end of the day, right? You could go on about this topic. I'm sure the three of us could sit here and just, grab a coffee or a drink and just go all day long, right? And I'd rather be doing this in in an office setting, or on a patio or something, because like Adam said, we are social beings, especially in the mortgage industry, right? We're all those salespeople at heart, right? We're relationship builders. That's what our business is built on. If you don't have the relationship, what do you got, right? And for us, like I was joking with all of you before the call, if you hear my 4.5-year-old out there screaming, I guess that's a no-no, right? And working from home, yeah, with Citadel, we always had a work from home mentality. We have our office in the financial district. We'd have our meetings there. We'd have team meeting with clients and stakeholders and such there, and do things right. I think one of the things that we're all missing, and especially the other companies in the office settings, is the whole the social aspect, right? The team building aspect. Like right now, I'm looking at my team. We've got over 170 agents. We're in 6 different provinces. We've got 4 regionals, underwriters and such. Everybody's working from home, right? And our team hasn't stopped growing during the pandemic. So some of those people I've never actually sat in front of and shook their hand and had a coffee with them. You know what I mean? And that, to me, is really detrimental to mental health and the team and the business in general. Now we, when COVID launched as a company, Citadel, we were looking at a online office world, several different options. We ended up going with Verbella when the pandemic hit back in March. When the first lockdown came, within 3 weeks we installed that, and we had people with avatars online, and that helped with mental health, because you're still kind of, it's like playing a video game, but you're in there doing symposiums and talking with people, and it's almost like you're with them but you're not, right? So a little bit different than Zoom, just to add another piece to the puzzle to help with that. But at the end of the day, I'm sitting here looking at going, okay, I can't walk over to an office and answer a question for somebody. They have to call me. They have to shoot me a message on Telegram, a text, an email, that sort of thing, right? You don't have the cohesive environment with everyone, because you're all spread out all over the place. And us as human beings want to be in that, right? And I am, to be honest, missing the interaction with everything. I can't go out to Alberta and go and do a big group thing with our team there. We all couldn't go to MPC in Vancouver. The last one that was scheduled in person was for Vancouver, right? For the national event. Couldn't go out there and do that, which I love attending every year and seeing colleagues I built up relationships with in the industry and such, and lenders and all that, and having a great time and learning and growing as we go. We all kind of need to be around each other. You know what I mean? For that to continue on. We're not everybody's the back end, inside. I don't want to go out. I'm the introvert. I want to work from an office setting and sit on my computer all day long and not talk to other people, right? I have talked with many different organizations and companies and, clients that we have, especially in the GTA and greater Vancouver areas as well, where they're saying they're looking at these models of, yes, we're going to go back to an office for a period of time. We're going to offer a fully remote digital experience for the people in our ecosystem that aren't comfortable with coming back to the office right away, but we are going to go back to an office setting. And a lot of them have started to adopt the mentality of, maybe we go to a 3 days in, 2 days out, 5-day work week, where it's like, okay, we'll give you an option where, yes, we want you in the office. We want to have that environment. We don't want to go fully digital. And for our business, it is very important to us, whether business line they're in. But at the end of the day, we're going to give the option to have the at home and in office, right? And when you look at that would be kind of a good mesh and pairing for most people's views out there when you look at the general consensus of what Canadians want to do moving forward, right? And being, a parent myself, at the end of the day, my kid's not in school, right? If this wasn't going on, my kid would be in school right now. She would be going to daycare. I could go out and do the meetings and set up the calls and go here, there, and the other, and be in my car half the day some days, and be in the office other days, and then be from home one days, right? So you're kind of missing that balance. And I think as things reopen and we go back to whatever is new normal at the end of the day, which keeps, what new normal means keeps changing every few hours, right? It seems 24 hours, everybody has a different idea of what's going to happen. Let's not listen to the government, because they'll keep telling us one thing and nobody knows what's going to happen at the end of the day, right? But I think, I'll echo a lot of what Adam and Christelle said, that we will be going back to some sort of new normal. The offices will come back into play. What that actually looks like, we can speculate and give our best ideas at this point. We're going to have to wait and see at least another 12, months, 6 months before we start seeing that implemented. And one thing that I think is going to be a key factor in the market, and I've been saying this for a while now, is when you look at the small businesses, like they said, the other panelists said, the ones that are working very well and made it through the pandemic, they've gone online, right? We have also seen a lot of small businesses shut down and be critically injured during this pandemic, right? So when I look at that and I look at the amount of people that are out of work and the amount of people that took CERB that actually needed it, not the ones that were double dipping and they're going to get hit on their taxes. And we see that on files when people say, oh yeah, I took this deferral and I got this and that. It's like, I don't know. I think that Q1 to Q2 of next year is when the economy is going to start feeling the effects gradually coming in of that workforce not being able to go back, the ones that can't find work, and CERB goes away. What's going to happen, right? Yes, we have over $100 billion that we've saved this year. I would love to be in one of those households where we're not buying from Amazon all the time, right? Because I see the packages coming and I'm like, oh my God, keep going. But I think we're going to feel the effects of the economy. And I think that's going to come into light within like end of Q1, beginning of Q2 next year. And that's going to have an effect on us as well. And we'll have to try to, remove and jig everything at that point.
Okay, well, that's all that we have time for today. So I would like to thank our sponsors, Fundever, again, for this panel, each of the panelists for taking part. Thanks to you for watching, and we'll see you next time on CNP TV.